so I can talk to you guys. There's two types of questions that they're going to ask you to draw. The one I've got on the board here, it says draw along the lines parallel of latitude. This one we're going to end up drawing a smaller circle, so we're not going to end up using the radius of Earth, which is 6,400, to do the calculation. There's another question that they may ask you to do, and it says use the great circle distance. If they're asking you to use the great circle distance, you have to use the radius of Earth. But I want to show you how to draw a diagram. So there's just a question, I think it's from 19B. First thing to do is, I'd say draw north, draw south, draw east, draw west, oops, and then draw the center of the diagram. So right now it's a 2D diagram. But then if you draw some lines on the Earth, there's our equator. There we go. The equator. It's now turned into a 3D diagram. This question's asking us to find the distance around the parallels of latitude of the following locations. 32 degrees south for the latitude, and the difference between longitude 50 degrees east and 80 degrees east. So what you need to do is draw it onto here, but because we've got different locations, it's hard to visualize it. So first off, do your latitude, so 32 degrees south. That's north, this is south. If I just put down here 32 degrees south, there's south, and I put over here 32 degrees south. Without drawing any lines on it, that's where south is. If it was north, draw north. Then we can put the center of the Earth there, and then do the same thing we did for the equator. Oops. Draw it around. So now that's a smaller circle. So if we've got a question said, what's the radius of this circle? It's going to be smaller than 6,400 degrees. 6,400 kilometers. The question then says we've got longitude of 50 degrees east and 80 degrees east. So longitude goes from north to south. Take that as your prime meridian line as the left, and then let's just draw one here, around that way. We could call that one 50 degrees east. And then if the next one's 80 degrees east, it's going to be a bit further around. So drawing it around that way. And we can call that one 80 degrees east. So what's the difference between those two locations? 30 degrees. So the question's asking, what is the distance? So if that's our point there, and that's our point there. So we're 32 degrees south, and we've got two different longitudinal distances. Let's get a different colour. That there is the sector we want to use, and that's that arc length. So we just worked out that's 30 degrees. Make that a bit bigger. 30 degrees in there. That's the biggest part, is being able to get information and draw it onto, say, a 3D diagram. Start with a circle, then just put the information in. From here now, we can actually start doing our calculations we need to do. So we need to get that radius. So from this point to that point there. It's a radius, so it's actually the same as from that point to that point. If we draw in a right angle triangle, there's a right angle triangle there. Because we're 32 degrees south, angles of depression would be 32, angles of elevation would also be 32. So I'm going to draw that triangle out there. There's right. 32 degrees is in there, because angle of elevation, depression, that's where the 32 degrees south comes from. The hypotenuse from there to there is from the center of the big circle to the edge, so that's our radius of 6,400 kilometers. And we're trying to find that x there, which is the length of the small radius. SOHCAHTOA, adjacent, hypotenuse, using cos. And I've got my calculations already. Cos 32 is x over 6,400. X would be 5,427.51. So that's the radius of the small circle. So it's smaller than the radius of the big circle. Then we want the arc length from there to there. So we're using the arc length formula. Oops, let's go backwards. Please follow pi times radius degrees over 180, something like that. Put in your information. Really bad writing. Our radius is what we just calculated. And the answer would be 2,841.83. So what that calculation is the distance from there to there. So that formula is just the arc length formula, but it's about finding out that angle and the radius that you need.